All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I'm once again joined by my two co-hosts here, Trevor Kaufman and Jack Eden. It's a pleasure to be back here with both of you boys. The NBA draft was this past Thursday? It was this past Thursday, right? And wow, I'm gonna be honest, they're gonna laugh at me because I was so wrong because a lot of these teams were stupid and took the wrong players. Look, we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about who we liked, who we didn't like, what teams won, what teams lost. But before I talk about that specifically, I wanted to ask one of them, Trevor or Jack. One of you go ahead for me. Tell me who you think won. What was a good pick? What team did well? Yeah, what team did bad? Name some people for me. Name some teams.
Jack?
I just wanted to shout out, I want Trevor to build off this point because I think he has a little more to say on it. But I know Ryan and I got into this little debate about where Jaden Ivey would go in the draft. And if you ask me personally, I think he was easily a top 4 player in the draft and probably, in my opinion, the 3rd best player in the draft. But the Kings passing on him at 4 to go for more of a win now guy in Keegan Murray, someone who fits their need on the wing versus in the backcourt that's kind of jumbled, as well as the fact that he's older. He's 21. He arguably was the best player in college basketball this season, and I see Ryan laughing, but it's a fact. He's a two-way player. He can score on the perimeter, and I think he gives great spacing for De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis out there. I wouldn't have taken him 4th, but I can see why the Kings did. And anyways, that gets into my team that I think won the draft is the Detroit Pistons, but I want to toss it over to Trevor first and let him talk about it a little more.
Trevor?
No, the Detroit Pistons and the Houston Rockets, I think for sure won this NBA draft.
Yes.
Ryan can talk more about Houston because he loves Jabari Smith like his brother, but I'll let him worry about that. I'll talk about Detroit, and I think Jaden Ivey is a terrific fit for this team. And look, I agree with you, Jack. I do think Keegan Murray was a better fit for the Sacramento Kings, right? It was a position of need. And you think about that starting lineup next year, right? You got Fox, Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, and Sabonis. That's a formidable starting 5, if you ask me. Like, that is a team that can win NBA games. It's not a great lineup, but that's a team in the Eastern Conference that probably makes the play-in, if you ask me. Moving on to the Detroit Pistons, you get Jaden Ivey. You get 3 first-round picks for Ousmane Dieng. Who else did they draft? I'm missing somebody.
Duren,
that's who they got.
They didn't. The Knicks got the picks though for Dieng, not the Pistons, but they ended up trading for Duren. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you get Ivey, you get Duren, you pair Ivey and Cade together. As Eden said, Jaden Ivey is, I would say, a top 4 prospect in this draft.
Oh, yeah.
You can play him at point guard. He's an excellent ball handler. You can play him at shooting guard. So I think he will really work well with Cade. And you kind of have your backcourt now for the next 10 years, I presume, with Ivey and Cade. I like what they did. I think Duren is a nice fit, a nice replacement for Jeremy Grant. And I'm trying to see where this team's going to go in free agency because they have a lot of cap space and they can be aggressive and they can go after a guy like DeAndre Ayton. So I think they've positioned themselves well. Do I think they're a formidable threat in any kind of way? No, probably not for the next 3 to 5 years, but they have a future and they have a really, really young core. And if that core develops, they can be really, really scary down the line.
Look. There's a couple things I want to say. One, the Kings. I need to talk about it. The Kings were a loser in this draft. I should have expected it. You know, their front office are full of idiots. They traded Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who almost averaged a double-double after they traded him, by the way, with assists and points on the Pacers. And he's fantastic. They traded him for what? Sabonis? Because they wanted to win now.
They're a terrible front all-star.
Dude,
Tyrese
Tyrese Halliburton
is going to score and assist on Indiana.
Dude. Well, I mean, they have a bunch of decent players. They have solid players. But look, Tyrese Halliburton is a 22-year-old guard with size who can pass really well, shoot really well, and score pretty much anywhere on the floor. Like, you don't trade a guy like that for a 6-year older power forward when Sabonis is not going to help you actually contend. Can we be honest here? I get he's a borderline all-star. He's made an all-star game or two. We all know he's not really going to make you a true contender. We all know that, right? So that was a silly trade. It was a silly trade, in my opinion, at least. And this also was a silly decision. You talked about, I've heard mentioned that the Kings have a jumbled up guard position. No, they do. They do not. They don't. They just traded one of their best guards in Halliburton. They traded Buddy Hield. They have De'Aaron Fox, who's really good. And they have Davion Mitchell. Like, the guy was a rookie. He was like, he was okay. He was fine. But he's not good. And they don't have depth behind it. I don't know why it stops you from taking Ivy. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Ivy's a fantastic player. He's really like John Westbrook. He just is super high energy. He's explosive. And I think he's a lot better. He's going to be a lot better than Keegan Murray. I think Keegan Murray is NBA ready. But I think Ivy is too. Ivy's going to come in day one, and he's going to score a lot. He's going to be electric. He's going to be fun to watch. Like, and to pair him with Cade is scary. Like, that's going to be a really nice duo for a while in Detroit. So, I mean, hey, kudos to them for actually making the right pick. But I think it was the wrong pick by Sacramento. I think they should have taken Ivy. I don't think they have any logjam at guard. And I think that not taking Ivy just hurts them in the long run. But I shouldn't be surprised because the Kings are going to do what the Kings always do and miss the playoffs because they haven't made it since, 2002, 2003, whatever. It's
I can't
horrible.
wait for that celebration when the Kings make if the Kings are like the Timberwolves and they have that home play-in game and they make the playoffs.
That's going to happen. Oh, yeah.
There's going to be like a parade.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's going to be like I think players are going to like get drunk and like start speaking to the crowd and like have like a world championship parade type of thing when they make the playoffs.
Man, I mean, you're probably right because they're awful. But look, going to another team that I like, Trevor highlighted Jabari Smith. Look, let me say this: the Orlando Magic, I can't even fathom what they did. Look, Banchero's an NBA ready player. Banchero's an NBA ready player. No, I can't. Jabari Smith is a 6'10" player who can handle the ball with ease, pull up from anywhere on the floor.
Look at Banchero.
Banchero cannot.
That sounds exactly like Paolo
Banchero cannot pull up for three the same way Jabari can consistently.
Yes, he can.
No, he cannot. Did he shoot 42% from three? No, he did not. Let's go look at
That's
Banchero.
the one weakness in his game.
Dude,
right now.
Banchero's not a three-point shooter. He is not. He's a mid-range shooter who
He's
has
like
good
12
post
years old
moves.
to develop it.
Wait, sorry, what?
He's like 18 years old to develop it.
Okay, Jabari Smith's the same age and can already do it.
All right. I mean,
Like, I can't believe it. Players like that don't come around often. Like, look,
it's not like crazy to like pick Banchero over Jabari Smith.
I think it was a crazy mistake. I do. And I think they gave the Rockets a great player. Look, I've said it to these guys before. There's no other player I can find in the NBA who can shoot at 6'10" with the ease that Jabari can, other than a guy like Kevin Durant. And obviously, he's not Kevin Durant. I have to say this because they'll take it and run with it. Look, he's not Kevin Durant. But when you're looking at player comparisons, he just reminds me of him. Who can I see with that size that can shoot with that ease from three, from mid-range? He'll get doubled constantly, still hit mid-rangers over both defenders. He has that size. He can't really get his shot blocked. He's such a great player. And no knock on Banchero. Banchero's a great player as well. He'd be number one most years. But I just like, when you already have that level of jump shot as a 6'10" forward and that level of mobility, and also he's a very good defender, I just don't know how you pass up on him at number one. So the Rockets got a great player at three. I think Banchero's going to be good. I just think that Jabari's ceiling's a lot higher. I think his floor is also quite high, as is Banchero's. But I just think that Jabari has the potential really to be an MVP player, like an MVP caliber player. This guy has the tools, and I just think that the Magic made a mistake passing up on him. So I had to highlight that. And so the Rockets had a great draft. And also getting Tari Eason was another player that I liked. He's an athletic wing who's a great defender. Houston needs defenders. So, getting a versatile defender like Tari Eason was another good pick. So Houston had a really good draft. But, man, Jack, go ahead. I know you want to say something because, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
I will say something, but I wanted to ask you first. What are your thoughts on OKC sticking with Chet at 2 versus taking Jabari Smith?
I think it was also a mistake, but I will say this, I think we mentioned this off the air before, like Chet is such an OKC pick, and you saw them getting Dang as well in that trade with New York. Those wings, those thin wings with shooting ability who have to grow into their bodies is such an OKC pick just for the developmental process. They want to play 3 to 5 years out. Jabari, I think, is really NBA ready. And so they were like, we don't need to take him because we think Chet can become as good or better than Jabari 3 to 5 years down the road, which is possible. I know, Jack, you're down on Chet because he's such a twig. Because he's such a twig. and it's risky, but it's felt like such an OKC pick to me that even when Jabari didn't go 1, I was like, I still think they go Chet too, because like him developing for years is something I think OKC just wants to fit their timeline with. So it made sense.
Yeah.
I would have taken Jabari, right? But like, I get it, if that makes sense. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. I think, they have 17 first-round picks in future years. Well, now they traded a couple to the Knicks, but they still have plenty. This team is full of young players who, are 19, 20, 21 years old, who have to mature and grow into the NBA. So I see, like, they're not planning on competing anytime soon. So I understand from that aspect, Chet, but I think when I was saying, my list of the top 4 players in this draft earlier, I have Chet as my 4th best player behind Ivy. And then I actually flipped the morning of draft day. I was telling these boys between Jabari Smith and Paolo Banchero to put Paolo at first.
So it's not who you think was going to go number 1. It's who you think deserves to be number 1. Like, you think Paolo's the best player.
Why? I think pretty much 24 hours before the draft. And I texted these guys. I was like, I would take Paolo Banchero over Jabari Smith.
I thought you were saying in the context of like, you thought the Magic were going to do it, not that you actually think Paolo's.
No, I didn't think they were going to do it. That was me personally saying, if I was the Magic, I would pick Paolo over Jabari Smith.
I'm curious, and we don't have to delve too deep into this, but like, why do you think Paolo's a better prospect than Jabari? Like, I'm curious because I just don't see it. But
okay, so I was looking at a couple videos. I think first of all, they're both 6'10", and Jabari is a better shooter. He has better shooting mechanics, so I will acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. But I also think that's a right now thing. Jabari shot better from the free throw line in college, and he also shot better from the 3-point line in college. But me personally, I think to be honest, I watched a lot more Duke games this year than I did Auburn games. And from the few Auburn games that I watched, there was one during the season. I think they ended up losing to Florida. That was one of the games that I watched. I also caught a good portion of their loss against – who did they lose to? No, in the tournament.
Miami.
And so, I mean, not that I think it partially is like I just caught Jabari Smith at not great games, which in that Florida game, Jabari Smith played very well and his team didn't. Mm-hmm. I will say that. But I just think Paolo, is more NBA ready in his body. He's 6'10", 240, 250 versus
Paolo's built.
Jabari is
Jabari's 220. I mean,
right. So it's not overwhelming,
that's like 30 pounds.
But you look at them and you're like, clearly one guy looks more dominant than another, right? I also think Paolo has a great great mid-range 2-point game. And I think that's elite from what I've seen in college. So that gives me faith that with time, he'll be able to further develop that 3-point shot. And additionally, I think ball handling is huge. And, that's something which, like, in people's eyes could be easier to develop than a better jump shot is better ball handling. And to me, Paolo, been watching some of his workouts and watching him play in games, has a much better handle and gets less phased with more aggressive defenders than what I saw from Jabari Smith. So from those standpoints, and the fact that I think it's ultimately about growth in the long term, to me, I just think, honestly, Paolo Banchero has more potential to grow partly because he didn't perform as well as Jabari did in college. But I mean, that's just from my standpoint, is I think Paolo could be a more dominant player down the line than Jabari Smith.
That's fair. Yeah, like, look, they're two very different players, right? So, like, Paolo's I think he's a more physical player. Jabari is not physical, right? That's probably a weakness. Yeah, and like that's why I would like compare him to a guy like KD. I've talked to Trevor about this on the phone before. Like, you don't see KD ever. He does not really go inside, especially now at this point in his career. He almost exclusively is taking jump shots, whether that be mid-range or threes, right? Like, and Jabari
fadeaways.
Yeah, exactly. And Jabari's very similar, right? So Jabari very rarely will like get inside, get physical in the low post for like a layup or like a floater or something like that. It's almost exclusively jump shots, right? From when I watch him, like, sure, he'll go in for some easy layups or two, but anyone will do that. So like they're different types of players. Like right, Banchero's a lot more physical. He has more post ability, I think. So it depends on who you want. I just think jump shooters are more valuable in the NBA. When you have a guy who's 6'10" who can do that at an elite level, I don't know. I wouldn't pass up on that. But hey, maybe I'll be wrong about this too. I was wrong about Jabari going number 1. So hey, maybe Banchero will earn that number 1 spot. I don't know.
Here's what I will say on this debate is I honestly don't think the Magic could have gone wrong with either of those two guys. Where I do think that they could have gone wrong was if they picked Chet, and that's just my personal opinion. But I mean, you can tell Chet has the game. He just has to grow into it. So
exactly,
he's not necessarily a guy who's going to put up big numbers in his rookie contract, in my opinion.
Nope.
But can he show you through like building his body and through flashes that he can get there? I could see that happening. I'm just not as sold. And just because that's a longer process versus a Paolo or a Jabari coming in and from day one putting up 17 points a game, I could see like
right.
That's kind of just where I stand. But yeah, as of about 24 hours before the draft, I flipped from having Jabari number 1 to having Paolo number 1.
Fair. I mean, hey, to each their own. We'll see who's better. Look, Jack might be right about this too. Trevor, do you have anything else you want to add? I don't know if there's any other players you want to talk about.
No,
not really. That's fair.
They're both great. They're both 6'10". I think they both have excellent offensive gifts. Obviously Jabari's a little bit of a better 3-point shooter than Paolo. TBH, they're both going to be on bad teams for 5 years, so I don't really care. But they're both.
Do you not think either could make their teams like actually good?
It's hard in the NBA to make your team really, really good young in your career.
It is, yeah.
So I know this is early, but which team do we think will make the playoffs first, Houston or Orlando? And
Houston?
by playoffs, I mean top 8.
Houston, 1,000,000%. Houston, 1,000,000%.
Houston, and again, I say that solely because I think Jabari is going to be a top 10 player in the NBA at some point. I like that's my guess.
I don't necessarily think that. I just think Houston has a better core than Orlando does. I think you have guys like Jalen Green who have shown a lot of promise. You have other guys like Kevin Porter Jr. who have shown a lot of promise. So for me, Houston has a lot of like talented like offensive players on that team. And they according to Ryan, they got the next top 10 player in the league. So if Jabari's as good as Ryan says, then I would definitely say Houston over Orlando.
That's interesting. I think Orlando will be there first because I mean I like their players and I think they're still growing. The Jalen Suggs, the Cole Anthonys. Now you add Paolo in there.
Cole Anthony, gross. Gross.
I'm telling you, watch out.
Plus, gross.
I will admit, another factor in my decision making is I think the West is going to be really good next year. And I think going in the future, which will it be easier in? If you're 8 games
That's the only reason
I'd
I'd
maybe
maybe
make
pick
it in as
Orlando.
the 8th seed over a team that, is 500 and doesn't get there.
The West was weaker than the East at the back end by a lot.
Oh, this year definitely. Yeah. But now you think you're adding Jamal Murray and Michael Porter.
Change.
You're adding Kawhi and PG now healthy. You're adding
the West will go 10
Zion
deep
Williamson. You're adding
the West will go 10
Kyrie
deep.
and KD
it won't go 10
come the
deep.
West.
Yes, it will.
It will not go 10 deep.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with that, but
at least 9. I can think of 9 teams right now that are going to be pretty formidable in the West.
And you can't claim the Lakers are going to be formidable right now. You can't claim that. So I don't.
I'm not including the Lakers.
Really?
If they get Kyrie,
it's 10.
Wow, you think the Timberwolves are going to be formidable?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, they won 46 games, made the playoffs, gave the Grizzlies.
Are they going to get worse this year?
I don't. The only way they get better is if Anthony Edwards carries them more. Like I think Cat's hit the ceiling. I think Russell's not that good. I don't think they're deep. Look, we'll talk about this another time. The West might be better than the East. It might be. Yeah, we'll see. I think Jabari's gonna be really good. So I think Houston will make the playoffs before.
Just you insert the Nuggets and the Clippers next year with a full roster. That makes the West scary. And potentially if Brooklyn gets broken up and both those guys come west.
I agree with. If that happens, then yes, the West is.
Trevor, you didn't even mention Zion coming back.
I was going to say the Pelicans are going to be really good next year.
Are we sure Zion's going to play? Are we sure, guys? Are we sure? How many
They're
games has he
about to
played in his
pay him
career?
this-
The guy's played what, 30 games in his career?
No, he played a full season.
Oh, did he
was
play
an
full
all-star.
season? You're right. I'm sorry.
He was an all. Look, when Zion plays, he was an all-star. So like, if he plays at that level, the Pelicans are scary. Put it that way.
Yeah. We'll get. Yeah, I want to talk about that at some point too. We'll see. Yeah, no, you're right.
Even without Zion, that team is pretty dang good with CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram. I'm just saying, like that team is not a championship contending team, but that team makes the playoffs.
What? It's between a 7 and 10 seed, I'd say, without Zion. Makes the play-in, maybe makes the playoffs. Yeah,
they were good. I mean, look, when CJ and BI played, they were tough to beat last year. I mean, that's a good duo to have, and they got nice young players. So, but that's an argument for another day.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens.
They pushed my dang Suns. That was a tough series.
And Eden and I have a nice friendly bet going on about if Donovan Mitchell stays in Utah, so that could change some things as well. You know, we'll see
that would be nice if he left. If Donovan Mitchell went east, just kind of got Utah thrown out of the mix, that would be nice.
Yeah, not that they're a threat, but you know, another quality team down the drain. You know,
exactly.
Nice.
One last team I want to mention on the NBA draft front. I really liked what the San Antonio Spurs did. As far as I thought Jeremy Sohan, I'm not super high on him personally, but I just feel like that's a Spursy pick, right? That's the guy who Popovich thinks he can develop, who can be a two-way player. If he can get a little bit more of an offensive game, you look back and think about someone like a Kawhi Leonard who came in defensive-minded, long, didn't have an offensive game. You saw what happened to him. I'm not saying Sohan's going to be Kawhi Leonard, but could he be somewhere heading on that trajectory? Maybe. And then you get two young guards that I really love, who I think are perfect Spurs development picks in Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley. I think both those guys can score. Both those guys have a great first step, and I think they're going to be in the G League for the first couple of years, but especially you ship someone away like a Derek White during this season, and you fill that in 2-3 years down the line. You've seen what they did with Derek White, what DeJounte Murray has become, and Lonnie Walker has improved significantly. Like, they know how to develop young guards. So even if it takes 4 or 5 years, those two guys, along with Sohan, could be guys who are very good for that team.
I actually think they'll play right away. Like, I think they'll play year one. I mean, they have the space. Like, they can play them year one.
They should.
And especially when they trade DeJounte Murray, I mean, which they will at some point this offseason, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a massive, massive thing going around that they're like looking to trade him. Yeah, the Cavs have been talking to them. The Knicks teams have been talking to them for months about trading DeJounte Murray.
Why?
Because my guess is he doesn't fit their time. Like, they have no one else to help him for years. It doesn't fit their timeline. The guy's just going to be sitting.
These are so stupid. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not here to argue that. I mean, you might be right, but I'm just saying, like, it looks like
you're going to trade. How old's DeJounte Murray? He's like 25.
25, yeah.
What do you mean he doesn't fit your timeline? He's 25. He's 3 years older than us.
I don't know why else they trade him.
Idiotic. I can't.
Point is they're looking to trade him, and it seems like they will for a bunch of picks.
Why would you trade him? You have Wesley and Branham to help him, unless you think they're going to become him.
To add to this point, his current contract has 2 years, $34 million. So he's on a steal.
So he's going to get paid a lot. Yeah, he's going to get paid a lot more too.
I don't get that at all. The Spurs have nothing outside of him. Nothing.
I'm not arguing. We're not arguing with you. I mean, I agree. I don't know.
Let's trade our 25-year-old star point guard because
yes, exactly. They want Wembanyama. Yes, sir. Next year. Look, but I like Blake Wesley, by the way, Jack. I'm glad you pointed him out. I think he didn't play that well in college, like at least statistically, like percentage-wise. But you watch him play. Like, I watched him a few games at Notre Dame, and like, he looks like he has like the tools, and he's pretty long to me. He's only 6'5", but he feels longer than that. Like, when I look at him,
he played much better towards the end of the season, and down the stretch of that postseason run,
he was good
in March Madness. He was the guy they were going to for buckets.
Yeah,
so
he's legit. So anyway, he's a nice pick for them. He was like a perfect Spurs pick. So I agreed with you. I agree with you there. But yeah, Trevor, I don't know. We'll see what happens with DeJounte Murray, but I think he's going to get traded. Same with
let's trade our star 25-year-old point guard who averages 22 a game and is the only guy in our team who can get buckets.
22, 9, and 8. Yep.
Idiotic. I just can't.
And the only
I don't
thing he
get
can't
it.
do is shoot the three. He can
That would be
literally
like
do
the
everything
Suns
else.
being like, let's trade Devin Booker because we want to be
No.
young.
It'd be like good. I don't
Stupid.
know how to find a comparison. It'd be like
Donovan Mitchell,
not even
but on a better
because
contract.
like the Spurs are really bad. It'd be like the Wizards trading Beal on a cheaper contract, right? Like like maybe a borderline.
I mean, I
play-in
guess,
team.
but like Beal's also what, 31 or 32?
I know.
But I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah. But yeah,
For
it's
me,
not.
that
I agree.
just-
It's not. Yeah, it's not
For
smart.
me, that just makes no. Okay, whatever. I'm like,
I agree.
can't
Yeah,
take
no.
the stupidity of that.
It's just
but okay.
but that's what's been like floating around a lot in the last few weeks and months, really, that they're gonna
Good.
move.
I actually hope DeJounte Murray gets traded because San Antonio's going nowhere for years. So I
You're
hope he
not
gets
wrong.
traded.
So yeah, hey, we'll see what happens there. And kind of look, leading into that, I think we're kind of done with this NBA draft discussion. Unless you have anything else you want to, Jack, you have any other players? I'm kind of good.
Shout out the University of Arizona. 2 first-round picks, an early second-round pick. Great draft for the boys.
Trevor,
Shout out.
Where'd Koloko go to the Raptors?
33 went to the
Yes.
Raptors.
Wow.
Shout out. I've added more players now in the NBA to my players that I've played against playlist. Adding Jalen J-Dub Williams going 12th to Oklahoma City.
And Ty.
Oh, I'm so
Ty
sad.
Washington going 29th to Houston. And there may have been one more in there. I can't remember, but if I think of it, I'll let you know. Dalen Terry, I never played against, but that was the other guy. But Brophy played against him. So
Dang. Yeah, Dalen Terry's gonna be good. It was weird that the Bulls picked him. Like they already have like guys like Caruso and Dosunmu and like Kobe White. They have a ton of guards. A lot of guards on that team. But I don't know. That's kind of a weird pick.
Terry can play wing though. Terry can play wing.
Can he?
he's 6'7".
6'6", he's long. He can
That's fair.
defend. He can play wing.
All right. Yeah. No. I mean, it'll be interesting to fit. I think he's gonna be really good. So, I mean,
Doesn't
I
have
think
the
that's a good
shot
pick.
yet, but he will get that.
I hope so.
I'm on the bust side personally. So
But
put that
look,
on record for the good or the bad.
what?
I'm not a huge believer in Dalen Terry at the
That's
pro
fair.
level.
Ladies and gentlemen, Banchero over Jabari, Dalen Terry, not going to be good. We'll see what happens with these predictions, Jack. Look, but moving on from the NBA draft, I wanted to move on to the other NBA event that we have upcoming this week, gentlemen, and it's a big week if you're an NBA team, specifically a Phoenix Suns fan, because DeAndre Ayton officially enters free agency starting this Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, it is coming up fast. We got 4 days until the NBA free agency period begins, and I kind of want to open this up. I know we've had a big Ayton discussion, so I don't really want to rehash that. I kind of wanted to open this up to both of you and just see, like, who are you looking at? What kind of players do you think Beal leaves? Do you think where do you think Levine goes? Does he leave? I mean, I think he does. Does he leave Chicago? Does Ayton leave Phoenix? Does Kyrie opt into his player option and ask to be traded? James Harden's gonna opt in. Does Miles Bridges leave Charlotte? What happens? Anyone have anything they want to start off with? Jack, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
I think from the names you mentioned, the big names, I think, the potential is there for a lot of movement, right? I think, everything now is rumors. So we don't know what's true, what's not. But as we're in prime rumor season with the draft and now with NBA free agency, but you said all those names, and to be honest, I think a majority of those names will end up staying with their current teams. I mean, the other thing I have to add with that is not a lot of teams in the NBA this offseason have a ton of cap space. So
Feels like
if
that a lot.
a big if a big name were to move, it would be through sign and trade. So I don't know if that like kind of takes it away for me, because it's not like, oh, they're picking up and moving and leaving. It's more so like that team is still going to recoup some value for that player leaving. So from that front, I mean, the names that you mentioned, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, Miles Bridges, those are all names where I'm like, I think those guys will end up staying with their current teams and end up working out a deal. The guy that I see most likely leaving is probably Bradley Beal, just because, he says he wants to win, but you could also throw a ton of money at him if you're Washington. I think that situation is going to be the most interesting because of the teams that he could go to. any one of them would have to do a sign and trade for him. So that's an interesting aspect, is all the maneuvering that'll happen, all the front office work that'll happen in order to get a big name to switch teams is going to be on the more difficult side. And that's why I see a lot of guys ending up staying where they are now. Kyrie will definitely be gone. And my inclination is that he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker. And like, I would hate that as a Suns fan.
Me too.
But I just like, if he leaves, the only other place that I could see him going is the Knicks, and I don't even know if the Knicks want him. They're focused right now on getting Jalen Brunson. So I don't really see them. I think LA, the Lakers are really Kyrie's only option at this point. In my opinion, just of like the teams that would want him. And then obviously that opens up Kevin Durant. Where's he going to go? I think if Kyrie leaves, there's no way KD's staying, even if they bring back Russell Westbrook in the trade. Like, I just don't see them hashing out their differences from OKC and playing together again.
I agree.
I don't think that's what Kevin Durant wants. And I think the two front runners for Durant in a trade seem to be Portland Trailblazers and the Phoenix Suns.
I've heard Boston also, by the way.
Boston, I don't know if they're willing to move
Jaylen Brown. Yes, that's what I've heard.
That's what it would take. I've also heard the Memphis Grizzlies would be in on that as well, to move anyone but Ja.
Sure.
I don't see that fitting their timeline. I think they have a young core that they should keep together. But those are the four teams that could realistically enter and win Kevin Durant, if and when Kyrie Irving moves. And then obviously you have DeAndre Ayton, who I keep going back and forth on it. I said it before and I'll say it again. The Phoenix Suns, I do not believe the Phoenix Suns will move him if they don't get equal or better value for him. And what do I mean by that? I mean a Kevin Durant type of player. I don't see them not signing him to a max when we're in this win now window and letting him go to a team like Detroit, who has cap space, to recoup a Killian Hayes and a Jalen Durant. Like, I do not see that happening. The only way that I do is if that is in a plan for Kevin Durant. And to be honest, I don't see the value of flipping Ayton for these pieces and that being more valuable to Brooklyn than Ayton himself is. The issue with the Ayton and Durant thing is, as soon as Ayton signs, the Suns have 48 hours to match or do a sign and trade with the team that he signs with, or let him go.
Yeah.
So if he's not going to be signing with Brooklyn. So as soon as he signs with a different team, then the Suns suddenly can't trade him, because if they match and sign him, they can't trade him until like December 15th, I think. So that's going to be a tricky situation, the timeline of when all this happens. But I don't know. I talked a lot there, but I think it's going to be interesting. I just don't see a ton of movement outside of Brooklyn at this point.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said you don't see a ton of movement, because like here's the thing, like only 5 teams in the NBA have like legitimate cap space right now. Like most teams don't have cap space. Like you literally have.
Aren't they all bad? Like
you have Orlando, you have Detroit,
Orlando,
Indiana.
OKC.
No, Indiana, San Antonio, and Portland. Those 5. That's it. As of right now. Now look, like teams are gonna like cut some players, teams are gonna trade some players, and a lot of these deals will get facilitated by sign and trades. Like, so that's not really super relevant, but Eden's right. Like, that's why most players will stay put, because you'll get the most money by staying with your current team. And a lot of times there's not a market out there, right? Like, you guys are going to hate me, but like Colin Sexton's a really good example. Like, look at this past draft. Detroit was one of his biggest suitors outside of Cleveland. One of the only 5 who has cap space, and they just got Jaden Ivey. So now one of those 5 teams that could pay him now just got a guard of the future. It's like, does he still have a suitor? And it's like, well, probably not. Well, is he going to go to San Antonio? I mean, maybe. Is he going to go to Indiana? Probably not. They have a ton of guards, right? So there's just not a lot of options for a lot of these guys. Same with Ayton, right? Like a sign and trade is probably the best option because most teams with cap space probably don't want him, right? So Detroit just got Duren. Maybe they still want him. I don't know. But like Indiana doesn't need him unless they want to dump Miles Turner in some deal, which I guess is possible. You go through these teams and there's just not a ton of options for these guys. So yeah, Jack's right. there's not going to be a ton of movement. But I will say Zach LaVine is interesting to me. I want to shout him out because I think I'm like pretty sure he's gone from Chicago. There's been like a lot of like discussion, like LaVine's probably out of here. Like LaVine's like, saying his goodbyes. Like he's going to leave Chicago because DeMar's the number one and LaVine wants to be, have a bigger role. I don't know if that's true, but that's just like, he's probably going to leave in my opinion.
Can we put that out there right now? LaVine is a 2. He's not.
I agree.
He's
good, neither is DeMar DeRozan, but LaVine is not a 1.
Yeah. But look, anyway, I think like LaVine's going to leave and it's going to be interesting. Like I saw like Atlanta, like with John Collins going to Chicago and a sign and trade, like swapping and then, matching the money that way. Atlanta would be interesting. I saw Dallas as another team. Like, I don't know how it would work money wise, but like the fit would be insane. Like imagine having LaVine with Luka. I mean, that's right. Scary.
Which that's another name I did not mention is Jalen Brunson. And if that were to happen, Jalen Brunson would not be a Dallas Maverick anymore.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think he's gone anyway. I think that like there's just not
really.
Well, because like I think that Dallas thinks they don't need a guy like Brunson who like Brunson. I feel like Brunson needs the ball in his hands to do what he wants, and I don't know if Luka's willing to play with that or if they want him to play with that. You know what I mean? Like Brunson doesn't want to come off the bench really at this point.
I think LaVine is a much better fit on that team than Brunson is.
Oh, I agree.
Or like a guy like Kyrie who's been linked to them, but that won't happen.
That won't happen, yeah.
But I think Dallas is sold on minute 1 bringing Jalen Brunson back out. The same price that the Knicks would be willing to offer him. So it's definitely a race between two teams. But again, I think that's the one that sticks.
Yeah, I mean, you think so? Okay. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. And then Miles Bridges, like, where's the money for him to go anywhere else, right? Like, a guy like him has to go into sign and trade or just go back to Charlotte, right? So I think a lot of the movement's going to be the smaller names and the trade market, by the way. Like, John Collins is going to get moved, like, I think. Like, it's super likely. It seems. Brogdon, Turner. I've heard OG Anunoby is a big name in trades. So I don't necessarily – I mean, look, Toronto has a ton of wings. So I think that's why. Like, they have all the same player, right? Like, all their guys are, like, 6'8" to 6'10" wings. So I guess that's why they want to move him. But we'll see, like, right? Like, Gobert maybe if Mitchell doesn't go. Like, it'll be interesting to see who gets traded. But, yeah, I think you're right. Like, a lot of these guys are going to stay. But I think the real market's going to be the sign and trade and just straight up trade market. So it'll be exciting. I mean, it starts Thursday, and there'll be a ton of movement early like there normally is. And, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Trevor, I don't know what you have to say, if there's any players you want to highlight.
I haven't talked for like 20 minutes, but I have had some time to think. So I'm kind of with you guys. I really don't think there's going to be a lot of movement. I don't think this is going to be as exciting of an offseason as we think. If I had to be honest, the most exciting is going to be Brooklyn, because I do think Brooklyn will be split up, and I think Beal will leave Washington. That's pretty obvious, though, so I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I think Bradley Beal's a perfect fit in Miami. I think Miami has the assets to match a sign and trade or a trade or I don't even know, whatever. Miami's a perfect fit for Beal, in my opinion. You stay in the East, the weaker conference. Miami was 1 win away from the finals with one player giving them consistent production. I think Beal would be a huge, push for them to win the East next year. I agree with you, Jack. I do think Kyrie Irving's either going to be a Brooklyn Net, which I don't think he'll be a Brooklyn Net, or a Los Angeles Laker. And I do think he will be a Los Angeles Laker, which kind of sucks, because if they happen to keep AD, LeBron, and bring in Kyrie, that's terrifying, because those are 3 of the best individual offensive players in the NBA.
Yep.
LeBron, obviously the GOAT. Anthony Davis, when he's committed and he's playing good basketball, we saw in the bubble, he can be a superstar in this league. And Kyrie Irving is, one of the best pure scoring guards we've ever seen, in my opinion. So the Lakers would be terrifying with Kyrie Irving. I think an interesting little thing I thought about in my head, and I think this would suck as a Phoenix Suns fan, is if Dallas found a way to get DeAndre Ayton. I don't think that'll happen. Like, that's just kind of like a fun thing I thought about in my free time, is how well DeAndre Ayton would fit with Luka and that roster. And I think Dallas would be a finals contender again, and maybe a Western Conference favorite with DeAndre Ayton.
Wow.
I mean, top three, in my opinion, I would say like them, probably the Clippers and the Warriors would be the three favorites in the West next year. And I'll touch on the Kevin Durant to Phoenix Suns stuff. I love the idea of it. And if I'm Kevin Durant, where else would I want to play? Right? Like, I think Phoenix is a great fit for him. He has a great relationship with Devin Booker. I think they're good friends. I know he has a good relationship with Monty Williams. I think the fact that we're in a win now mentality and Kevin Durant's in a win now mentality, I think helps. And I think Kevin Durant and a lot of players around the league see the culture that the Phoenix Suns have now, right? That player culture. Guys are really close on and off the court. Guys love working with each other. Guys love playing with each other. And I think that's attractive to free agents. And I think that would be attractive to a guy like Kevin Durant. So, I mean, look, I think it would be great. I don't think it'll happen. I think Kevin Durant in Portland would be really scary with Dame. That would be a very fun duo to watch. But moral of the story is, other than a bunch of sign-in trades, we're not going to see much in free agency this year. There's no cap space other than the few teams at the bottom who suck, right? And nobody's going to want to go play there.
That's where everyone goes for the money, to be honest.
So we'll see some sign-in trades. We'll see some moves, but we're not going to see anything crazy, maybe other than Kyrie Irving to the Lakers and wherever Kevin Durant goes after that.
I can, hey, LeBron keeps working out with Kevin Love. Who knows? Maybe Kevin Love will tell him to come to Cleveland, and maybe he'll listen one of these times. It's not gonna happen, but I can hope that he comes back for one final year before he retires. You know, maybe before he goes to play with Bronny. But look, we'll see what happens there. I do want to, Ian, I was gonna go into the Kyrie KD thing. I don't know if you want to talk about something else.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna, because that's our final thing. I wanted to.
As far as the Kyrie stuff, I feel like
go ahead.
If the only real team that would be a suitor for him is the Lakers, like, the Nets wouldn't be able to get much from that package. They'd have to match the salary with Russell Westbrook and maybe like a couple picks, but like,
what picks do the Lakers have left?
Exactly. So there's that. And then also, like, I think that's a totally different discussion from the Kevin Durant discussion, because I think there'd be way more, we've talked about it, there would be more teams interested in him, for his both on and off the court stuff. But I think it'd be interesting to talk about the packages, specifically what the Phoenix Suns could offer. But I also think, you know, there would be some interesting packages for those teams that would go after Kevin Durant. So I kind of push the conversation that way.
I will say, I feel like more teams would have to be interested in, like, Dallas really wouldn't be interested in Kyrie Irving. Like, that would be nice. That would be nice. Like dump Dinwiddie. Like, come on, you trade Dinwiddie like a pick, and you toss in like Christian Wood, make the money work. Dude, I do that deal.
A guy you just acquired in Christian Wood, though.
For Kyrie, yeah, I would do it.
I don't even know if you can move Christian Wood. Like,
yeah, okay, you're right. Actually, maybe you can't. There might have to be like time. Yeah, maybe. But like, assuming you could, like something like that. I don't know. Like, Dallas wouldn't be interested.
I just
like,
think that would be too detrimental to their team. They would have just Luka and Kyrie, because I mean, if you have to move,
I mean, what did they have this past year? I mean, they had Luka.
I mean, you could just add a bunch of veteran shooters, I guess.
But. Exactly, yeah. They keep their existing shooters and just shoot. Right. Like, Kyrie takes possessions for Luka. I mean, look, I'm just trying to think of other teams that have fit. Like, you're right. There's really not that many contending teams, right? Like,
I think
the Clippers. Could the Clippers make it work? Like,
yeah.
Kawhi, Kyrie, and PG. I mean,
they would have to dump. They'd probably have to dump Reggie, who's not even making that much money.
Oh,
Reggie Powell,
and like Covington. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Kyrie, PG, and Kawhi. No thanks.
I think the Durant stuff is way more interesting, because I think you have three clear
definitely
teams that could offer
the thing.
Kyrie has to go before KD goes. Like, he has to.
Right. Here's the thing, right? Like, for most teams, it's irrational to try and put together a package for Kyrie. But what team right now is acting irrationally in terms of business, free agents, trading?
Right.
It's the Lakers. Mm-hmm. They're the most irrational team.
And it's because LeBron's there on their team. When LeBron's in the team, you act irrationally.
Exactly. So the Lakers are going to do, if LeBron walks into Rob Pelinka's office and goes, "Give me Kyrie Irving," they're going to get Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
And maybe they have to get rid of Anthony Davis to do it. I don't know. I don't know if they would do that. But
if LeBron asks for it to happen,
an interesting move. I'm actually glad I just brought that up. If you're the Lakers, would you dump Anthony Davis for Kyrie Irving?
It's
No.
look, that's a great question.
Definitely not. No.
Trevor, you think about it, and Eden's gonna say definitely not. But how more reliable is AD than Kyrie?
He's not.
He's not. He might actually have played less. I mean, okay, he's played more games, but not by that many. Like, he gets hurt every year. There's multiple injuries. Like, and he's gotten worse in recent years. Ever since the bubble year, right? He was awesome in the bubble.
Yeah.
He's why they won that title, because he was able to help LeBron the way he was. But has he been the AD that we knew, the top 10, maybe even the top 5 AD from back then in the last year and a half to 2 years? I wouldn't say so. And he's missed half the season twice. And he was out in the Sun series, and that's why they lost the series. It was a big part.
What's happened to Kyrie Irving?
Look,
Kyrie Irving hasn't played.
True.
And not because of
Yeah,
injury
but here's the thing,
reasons,
Jack. Here's the thing.
He
There's a
doesn't show up
difference.
to work.
Yeah,
Here's the thing,
that's
though,
the difference.
Jack. Here's the thing. Kyrie Irving doesn't play because he refuses to get vaccinated, thinks the Earth's flat, and has a bunch of other random
Exactly.
reasons that don't make any sense as to why he doesn't play. Right? Like, the vaccine thing is no longer an issue. He seems to be very at peace with his religion,
Sure.
personal life. So I think going forward, Kyrie's going to be more available
Especially
now.
if he has to, especially if he goes to LA, with LeBron. So look, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, just about KD as well. I just want to say, like, the Suns, Boston, Portland, and I mean, those are the teams that I think are in contention. But look, we'll talk about it more after this week, after free agency starts. Free agency is Thursday. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. I hope KD doesn't go to the Suns. So yeah, let's not have that happen in the next week or 2 weeks. Thank you very much. But with that, boys, I mean, look, we can wrap this up. We talked strictly NBA on this podcast, which is totally great. Not a lot of other sports going on right now. And yeah, we'll see what happens with free agency starting Thursday. So let's hope KD doesn't go to Phoenix. I need to say it one more time, please no. But yeah, we'll wrap this pod here. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed. And we'll see you next week. So talk to you then.